Hey y'all! In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to do a woven bind off that makes a nice folded and stretchy hem. This is a great bind off to use at the bottom of a top-down sweater if you want a little folded hem at the bottom of your sweater. It's also a great bind off for any area that you want to have an elastic channel. So for example, I used this for the bind off at the waist of a skirt, and it created a nice little channel for elastic to go through. So my swatch here is knit up in a DK weight yarn. This is a size 6 needle, and I also have a darning needle for this bind off. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I move my yarn and my darning needle out of the way, and I'm going to flip this swatch so that I'm looking at the wrong side. When you fold this hem to do the bind off, you're going to be folding it wrong side to wrong side, and then you're going to be doing a woven bind off along this edge, and you're going to be using Kitchener stitch for the stitches on your needles and duplicate stitch to bind it off to the main part of your fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread my yarn through my darning needle. I'm using a contrasting color so that you can really see this bind off. But for your project, you can go ahead and use the same color as your project. So, the first thing that I'm going to do is get my stitches on my needle, and I'm going to fold it and decide where I want to bind off. You can make this hem and this little channel inside as small or as big as you'd like. You can make it smaller by binding off to stitches closer to the needle, or you can make it bigger by binding off to stitches farther away from the needle, like that. Once you figure out how big you want your hem to be, go ahead and look at your fabric. When you're doing duplicate stitch, you're going to be following along a line. So you see the top of the stitch right here, right here, right here, right here. You're just going to keep following in a straight line. Okay, so once I figure out where I'm going to be binding off, I'm going to go ahead and actually start my bind off now. My first step is to go purlwise through the first stitch on the needle, keeping it on the needle. And then I'm going to anchor. I'm not quite starting the double stitch yet. Right now I'm just going to anchor this first one right along the selvage edge. And then I'm going to go back to my needle. I'm going to knit that first stitch off the needle and go purlwise into that second stitch. Okay. Now we're going to start our double stitches. So you can see right here, this little bump, the top of that stitch. I want to follow that stitch. So I'm going to go up, up through the one leg, and we're following that bar. So we're going to go down through there. When I pull that tight, what you're going to see is it's going to mimic that stitch. See that? All right. So now I'm going to go back to the needle edge, we're going to knit that first stitch off, purl into the second stitch, leaving it on the needle. We're going to go back up to our fabric. This is our first duplicate stitch. This is going to be our second duplicate stitch. So I'm going back up through that bar that I came down through previously. I'm going to follow this bar across and go down through the next one. And then you'll see how that is a duplicate stitch. All right, so we're back to our needle edge. We're going to knit off the first stitch, purl into the second stitch, go back to our fabric, find where our last duplicate stitch was. It's right here. We're going up through the bar we came down through previously. We're going to follow that bar over. So this is the bar that we're duplicating. So to duplicate this bar, we have to go down through that bar. Now when you pull this tight, you want to keep the same tension as the rest of your stitches. So I recommend going through with a needle and gently pulling these tight. And that way you have a nice clean bind off that isn't going to pucker. So you continue in this fashion until you've bound off all of your stitches and all the stitches are off of your needle. I'm going to go ahead and do a few more just so you can see. Knit off, purl into the second stitch, keeping it on the needle. Move to your fabric. You can see the line that we're following. Going up through the bar that we came down previously. We're moving over a bar and going down through that bar. Knit off the first stitch, purl into the second stitch, keeping it on the needle. Move to your fabric. Following that line, you're going to go up through the bar you previously came down through, and then down through the next bar. Tighten these up as you go. Knit off the first stitch, purl into the second stitch, back to your fabric, up through the bar you previously came down through, over one bar, go down. Okay, so now that I'm finished, this is what my hem looks like on the inside. You can see the stitches extending from that active edge of stitches from your bind off edge. And then you can also see where you've done the duplicate stitch going up and down through those bars through that finished fabric. So this is what it looks like on the wrong side. And when you flip it over, this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see this little line where you made those duplicate stitches, and this is the channel that you can put your elastic through. And as you can see, it's super stretchy because of the fact that it's woven. It allows for a lot of movement and stretch in that bound off edge. So that's how you do a woven bind off that creates a super stretchy folded hem.